It's your boy Raven, and finally back on a Monday, because past couple Mondays I've either been sick or, something's come up. Well, this one I'm off, so back with you. Anyway, hope your weekend was good. Mine was okay. Nothing really, nothing special, but nothing terrible either. In fact, I'm kind of still on my weekend, but, yeah. Just generally, listening to some books, having a little fun, and trying to relax. And yesterday was sort of a relaxing day for me. I got to, do a couple things, I was mostly out and about, so not on social media. Not really promoting the videos, because the last couple of days we had a little, had a few glitches in the technology, and that caused the uploads to kind of run and lag, so there were no links. Still, they are still up. The Thursday and weekend videos are still up, so if you wanted to go view those before you viewed this one, that's perfectly fine. But today is Moonology Monday, so naturally I'm going to be using one of the Moonology decks as the Oracle today. And today it's going to be Manifestation, because now's a good time to take those dreams, turn them into goals. And how do you do that? You give them a plan. That's all. So a dream is just a dream. It lives in your head. It is as real and tangible as your mind makes it. But a goal is a dream with a plan. And that makes it not just real to you, but everyone else. With me so far? Good. Well, let's get this bad boy rolling, shall we? Okay, starting with your significator, Frithgeard. And this is the land of making peace. Now, it doesn't have to be making peace with someone that you don't get along with. This could be making peace with parts of your life. Right now, many of us have had to make peace with some things we would rather not. We lost Betty White recently. We lost Bob Saget, we lost him yesterday. And in my opinion, I think he was a great comedian. He took drastic measures to break him away from his own typecasting, and directed and had a part in one of my favorite movies, Dirty Work, with Norm Macdonald. And this may seem like a contradiction, but Thor is going to be your guide today. And Thor is here to break us out of that rut. So if your rut is that you haven't come to grips or come to terms with certain aspects of your life, well, now's the time to do it. And now's the time to do it in great and terrible force. Not physical brute force, but just saying, I know what I'm worth, and I'm not going to take this kind of thing anymore, and you're not going to make me do it. So, let's see who our spirit animal is. And it is none other than the frog. As the cards are revealed, this becomes a little more clear to me. Making peace sometimes means clearing out the clutter. Sometimes breaking with the past. For example, if you have some knickknacks that have sentimental value, but they're not serving you, they're not doing anything, they're reminding you of something maybe it's your glory days. It may be time to break away from them. Sometimes the glory days, they're only glorious in memory, and they're better spent that way. Sometimes the past can be very painful, and it's time to break away from that. Here's the thing, and I heard this, I think, in Yasmin Boland's book, which is kind of interesting how we're doing Moonology Monday. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go grab it, because it makes a lot of sense to do so now. And here it is. The very book, Moonology, which, by the way, if you read this book or listen to it, you can actually use both of our decks pretty easily. And I have listened to this. And let's see, wishing examples. Here it is. So right now, what do we have? We have New Moon through the 12 signs. And we're going to be sitting in a new moon, I think, in Capricorn, if I'm not mistaken. And that's exactly what I'm going to look up right now. I should probably have this thing marked, I know. Here it is. This is what I wanted to say. So, it is important to note that in order to realize our dreams via new moon manifesting, we need to have released any grudges or upsets that we have against anyone. That's just how it works. The full moon is also the ideal time to practice forgiveness and gratitude. We can use the full moon to process the following: negative emotions, fears, upsets, arguments, disappointments, dramas, and wrongdoings. Now, in order to process and release the karma that goes with whatever's happened, we have to forgive. That might mean forgiving ourselves or forgiving someone else. Sounds challenging? Not necessarily. Imagine that before you came to Earth, before you incarnated, you made several soul agreements. You knew that you wanted your soul to evolve during your lifetime, so you made agreements with other souls to do things to each other that would push all your buttons and maybe push you to the edge, but would mainly teach you. So, if and when someone really upsets you and pushes all your buttons and starts to test you, imagine they are someone with whom you have a contract. Look for those lessons that the upset is teaching you. Think of it as a setup designed to help you evolve rather than an upset. Get it? Learn the lesson and you will be able to move on. Now, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. And it says, resentment only leads to bitterness, which is toxic. And as the Buddha allegedly said, some people attribute the words to Buddhist teacher Pema Chodron, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. And sometimes you can forgive and forget, sometimes you can only forgive, but you can't forget, and sometimes you can forgive, but it's not even wise to forget. We're all human and we make mistakes. We're fighting our own personal battles. And just to repeat, forgiving someone for what they did does not make what they did right. It means you've dealt with it and can now move on. And that's the most important takeaway. So, we're clearing out the clutter of all that baggage, all that negative emotion, the stuff that's really just, really hurting us. And we're doing that with a King of Coins tower, and of course a 5 of coins. Now, this is not necessarily great news, but it's not necessarily the end of the world either. Because the King of Coins pops up telling us this is someone who is really, really mastering. This is the top level of all that material stuff going on. So all the stuff in your physical is happening right here. The tower moment, that's going to be your action. And whenever the tower comes into play, I always tell people, yes, that card, I know some people hate that card. They hate it with a nuclear capability, and quite frankly, I don't blame them. Because when the tower comes up, that is where you're left with nothing but the foundation. But on a strong foundation, you can always rebuild. See, right now you're very skillful and enterprising, and you're happy to support others' endeavors, and you're also willing to share your wealth and your expertise. However, the thing to remember is you're going to kind of overdo it if you're not careful. A lot of what you work for will probably end up being destroyed. But you will have that base from which to work. The problem is that when you overdo it like that, then your 5 of coins comes up. And typically in Rider-Waite, this is the one where you can see those people kind of left out in the cold. But this, in this case, I don't really see that. I don't really see that one at all with this particular card. This is still a card that not many people like to see, that being left out in the cold. But in this one, the image that it presents is that of charity. So it looks, what I'm seeing here in the tarot is that you come from a very high position, you're very enterprising, you're very, very willing to share, but you tend to overdo it, and it becomes a very humbling experience. Then again, in this action, I can also see someone being taken advantage of. So there's a good reason to kind of be a little careful there. Also, let's go with the Moonology cards and see what's going on. And we've got some really interesting stuff going on. Starting with a full moon in Aries. Our moon phases are going to go backwards. We got the cooling of the emotion. You know, try not to get too heated about it. Also, right here, you got a last quarter moon in Pisces, which reminds you to talk less, feel a little more. These two cards coming together, they make perfect sense to me. Because right now, you're being told, remember what we said about those teachable moments. Those are the ones that you need the most. I can tell you this much, over the past several days I've learned I probably need my chiropractor a little more than I thought I did. I haven't been to my chiropractor in a while, and wow, the back pain from Saturday really came through in those last couple hours. They were really killing that. It's one muscle in my back that was going, "Argh!" And I was like, please don't do that. But while you're enterprising, while you are charitable, while you feel you might have been let down, use those to learn. And then Use those to formulate ideas and go for them. I don't see much in the way of creativity here. I don't see much in the way of ideas, but we have two cards with Aries energy in them. And Aries is all about that creative fire and energy. So the key thing about that kind of energy is fire is a great thing. Fire keeps us warm. Fire gives us light. But unless you harness it, it will destroy everything in its path. Fire's a glutton. It eats and eats and eats. Look at the wildfires raging pretty much, just recently. And your wildfire may need to be cooled before it destroys everything. Finally, to your runes, we have Avaz, we have Tivaz, and we have Uruz. Now, Iwaz is a great rune because it shows off. This one shows you for what you truly are. If you're able to make this transition and you're able to grow, people will trust you more. And that's where, that's where this comes into play. So that justice, leadership, that victory, you will be gaining it. But this is a part of your growth, and it's a very painful process. Chalk it up to a case of the Mondays. But as long as you face it with strength and be of good courage, everything is going to be just fine. This is one of those readings I have to say this. This isn't one of those readings that's all good news and serves as not so much a warning for you to turn from your current path, but this one's telling you you're about to hit a real pothole here, bud. You're about to hit a speed bump. But the key thing to remember is to look at what happened and remember that it's not happening to you, it's happening for you. There's something in there that tells you, hey, I'm showing you something. For example, there have been these kinds of people in my life. Growing up, there was a guy that constantly wouldn't quit picking on me as a kid. I mean, from kindergarten until probably about, I'd say, sophomore year of high school. And finally, I confronted him. And ever since then, we've actually been pretty good friends. I actually gained a friend out of it. And I found out about pretty close to our graduation. I actually talked to him and I said, hey, we're friends, right? He said, yeah. I said, why'd you spend all those years messing with me? What was that all about? And he said, well, I thought you were pretty cool. And, he goes, but I need someone who's as tough as I am in order to hang around him. He's like, so the whole thing was me trying to see, number one, if you were the type of person I wanted to be hanging around, and number two, if you weren't, could I turn you into that? Made a lot of sense. And yeah, he spent some time really toughening me up. And let me tell you something. It's a lot like forging a sword. You take several blocks of different metals and you superheat them, then you beat the hell out of them, then you put it back in there to soften them up, then you beat them again, and you beat it until it's shaped, or you melt it down until you can pour it into a mold. and then you put it through fire and ice until that blade is just right for you. Then you put the handle on it, finish it, sharpen it, and then you've got a good knife or you've got a good sword. That block of steel is not going to cut anything. So you can look at this as further sharpening you, further forging you. You're being welcomed to the forge to become something greater. I'd like to thank you all for joining me. I hope that you got something out of this. Just remember to take care of yourselves and each other. Remember that I love you all. Always do what lights you up. And as always, shine on.